Welcome to our Monday episode of Arch City Sports. I'm your host, AJ Nance, on Monday, December 16th. Of course, make sure to go like and subscribe if you guys are on YouTube. Follow and rate the podcast if you guys are on Spotify or Amazon Music. And, of course, go follow us on all social media at Arch City Sports on Instagram, and especially on Instagram and on TikTok. We have a lot to cover today. From the Blues playing really well right now, their trade for Cam Fowler, we're going to dive into that. The amazing play from Robert Thomas right now, the really disappointing play from Justin Falk, but also a lot of baseball news going on right now. Trades and signings going on all over the place, and the Cardinals have not done a whole lot yet. Arenado is still here. Ryan Helsley is still here, so we're going to kind of dive into that, and I'm going to give you guys my predictions of where they could be going if they go anywhere. And SLU, a really, really bad loss. We're not going to dive too deep into that one, mostly focusing on the Blues and the Cardinals, but a really tough loss for the Billikens this weekend on Sunday. So let's start with the St. Louis Blues. I mentioned playing really good hockey right now 15, 14, and 3 on the season. To break down their game in entirety versus the Rangers, go check out the Blues reaction show that will be up on this Monday morning / early afternoon. So make sure to go check that out. But the Blues playing really well. 15, 14, and 3 now on the season. Robert Thomas is playing really, really good hockey. I mentioned in that Blues reaction show 7 games this month of December. He has a 7-game point streak, a point in every game, 4 goals, 9 assists, and is plus 10 on the ice. He's playing like a top 25 player in the National Hockey League right now, and that's what we need if we're going to, be in the playoffs, potentially do damage in the playoffs. He's a player that makes everybody around him better. He elevates everybody around him, and that's what a lot of what we were missing these last couple. I mean, when he was out the weeks that he was missing, is a guy that is just absolutely elite, pretty much on both ends. Really solid in the face-off, can make everybody around him better, and he's obviously the guy for the St. Louis Blues, the best player we have, hands down, in my opinion. And he has finally got his legs under him a little bit now, and he's playing really, really strong hockey on that top line. And we've seen other guys, their games elevate because he's there as well. Jordan Kyrou, some of it has to do with just Thomas passing the puck to Kyrou, but also all the attention goes to Robert Thomas, and I think that's giving Jordan Kyrou opportunities as he's now up to 13 goals on the season. So really good win versus the Rangers. Like I mentioned in that reaction show, an underperforming New York Rangers team, but still a team with a lot of firepower. And so really solid win. We obviously had that overtime loss on Saturday night, so really good bounce back there, and a really, really tough upcoming week. You have the Devils, the Lightning, and the Panthers. 2 of those, I believe the Lightning and the Panthers are on the road in Florida, and then that Tuesday matchup is at home versus the New Jersey Devils. But one player that has been really disappointing is Justin Falk. Falk is obviously getting a lot of minutes, and he was out for a little bit with an injury there. But he has not been the same Justin Falk that we knew a couple years ago and even last year. I mean, offensively this year, 1 goal, 7 assists, 8 points, -7 on the ice, which is the worst out of the entire defensive group for the Blues. But when you look at his past seasons, he's obviously played in a lot of games for us, 56 games, 76 games, 82, 60, and now 30 this year. But this plus-minus is the worst he's had in a season so far for the St. Louis Blues. He had -3, +11. In 2021-2022, he had +41 for his plus-minus rating. -4, -2, and then -7 this year. He's getting heavy minutes still. He's playing 23 and a half minutes per game. Last year played almost 22 minutes. Then he had 23, 24, and 20 in his first season as Blue. So he's always going to be a heavy minute guy. But offensively, the production's not there. I mean, he's had 1 goal this year, but he had seasons where he had 16 goals with us, 11 goals, only 2 last year. But the assist numbers too. He had 39 assists, 28 assists, 31 assists, 18 assists, and 11 assists. And this year, only 7. And that plus-minus rating is kind of a skewed stat. It can be a skewed stat in certain circumstances. But this year has just not been very good at all, offensively or defensively. And he's still on that power play unit. So I'm really interested to see what we do with him. because I think he has a role here, and he might be playing through something right now. He might be playing through that injury that he had. So definitely keep an eye on Justin Falk. Definitely been disappointed with his play, though. He is 32 years old, going to be 33 by the end of the season. So who knows what the future is for Justin Falk, but definitely not the same guy that we saw a couple of years ago with a plus 41 rating on the ice and 16 goals. So definitely not the same offensive guy, and defensively just looks a little slow. I mean, even the other night, Matt Duchene turned the corner on him really quick, and ended up being the game-winning goal in overtime. So yeah, the biggest news here in St. Louis this week is the trade for defenseman Cam Fowler, and maybe that has something to do with Justin Falk's negative play as throughout this season so far. We get Cam Fowler and a second round pick, or a fourth round pick rather, and we trade Jeremy Bika-Patuka, a prospect for the St. Louis Blues who's only played one game for the Springfield Thunderbirds this year, and we gave them a second round pick as well. The Ducks just traded for Jacob Trouba from the Rangers as well, so they're trying to build for the future here with especially that second round pick. And we get a guy in Cam Fowler who was about 8 or 9 games away from playing 1,000 for the Anaheim Ducks. I believe he leads their organization in assists and block shots, and there's a whole bunch of different stats that he leads that Ducks team in for their franchise. Been one of their staples in their lineup for 10 plus years now. So we get a guy who's 33 years old and can take some of those heavy minute totals away from Ryan Suter and Colton Parayko and Justin Falk and that group, Philip Broberg. So a guy that can kind of help out that group. And I also think along with it, kind of maybe having to do with Justin Falk not performing very well, I think it also has to do with P.O. Joseph not playing very well this year. He also has a -7, which is tied for Falk for the worst in our defensive group. But along with both of those things, that also probably shows that Nick Leddy will not be coming back very soon. And so I think Cam Fowler fits in perfectly here. And you have defensemen that you can kind of pick and choose for different games, different play styles. He was 9 games away from playing 1,000 as a Duck. Now I'm looking at it, but you have a bunch of defensemen to choose from. I think your staple top 2. I mean, Parayko's obviously there, and I think Philip Broberg is your second. Philip Broberg's probably your best defenseman overall, and Parayko's probably your best defensively. But either way, Suter's played really solid. So let's just say you had Suter and Parayko at the top. You had Falk and Broberg on the second, or Fowler and Broberg, and then you have let's say you had Falk and Broberg on that second line. You could go Fowler and Perunovich, Fowler and P.O. Joseph, Fowler and Matt Kessel. So you have some options here. I think Matt Kessel's played really solid in his time, and he wasn't really supposed to get this many minutes. I think the Blues and our fan base kind of expected P.O. Joseph to be more in an elevated role of that third line defenseman rather than in and out of the lineup. So do I think this is the only trade the Blues make these next few weeks? No. I think there's other guys that could be moved, and I think there's other areas that we can improve on. I think obviously you're lacking firepower outside of Robert Thomas and how Jordan Kyrie's been playing. Jake Neighbors is going to put the puck in the back of the net, but he doesn't add a whole lot of dynamic ability. Buchnevich adds a little bit, and I think defensively you don't do a whole lot now that you got Cam Fowler, and like I mentioned, you have about 8 different bodies that you can rotate in and out. You can try to deepen your lineup, but I also think there's one guy that's getting that's playing every game for the St. Louis Blues that I think could be traded, and I think honestly he might very well be traded. There's been rumors that teams are interested, and with his production this year, I think it might be a wise decision. That's Brandon Saad, who's been so solid in his career. When you look at his goal totals as a Blue, 24 goals, 19 goals, 26 goals last year, was plus 11 one year, 49 points, 37 points, 42 points. Doesn't play heavy minutes on the ice. We're talking 14, 15 minutes. But he's always a second or third line guy for you, and he's even gotten times as a Blue on that top line. So this year is very different. In 28 games played, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points, a -6 on the ice, which is one of the lower lower amounts out of our forward group. So just not the same Brandon Saad. I believe all 4 of his goals came in 2-goal games, if I remember correctly. Or maybe it was just the last one. It was just the last one because he had 2 goals going into that one, and then he scored 2, and they were kind of junk goals too. So, you take away those 2 junk goals in that 2-goal game he had, it's not a very good season for Brandon Saad. And defensively, he's usually on that PK, and he's not been. So he's a guy that I think could be moved, and a team that's looking for a veteran to kind of plug in their third line, that's trying, a playoff team that's looking for some kind of veteran leadership. Or, honestly, I don't think he would like this, but a team that's rebuilding or retooling, however you want to describe it, and they needed some veteran leadership in their rotation, in their lineup. And I think he could really help young guys. He just turned 32 in October. But like I said, 28 games, only 4 goals, 6 assists from Brandon Saad. And I think I would rather see Zachary Bolduc in an elevated role over him. I'd rather see Toropchenko or Sonny or whoever else right now, because Brandon Saad's not providing a whole lot of production for you right now. So keep an eye on his name to be moved these next couple weeks. There's been rumors about that. The last thing I want to cover with the St. Louis Blues is, now that we've seen some really solid play these last couple weeks under Montgomery, what is the Blues ceiling for 2025? And I think this is a group that, as I've mentioned several times, doesn't have a whole lot of superpower or firepower other than Robert Thomas, who's playing elite hockey right now, 13 points in 7 games in this month of December. But I think this is a team, if Bennington continues to perform like he is, and Joel Hofer, and the defensive group is playing really solid as well, I think this is a team that makes the playoffs, and I don't think anybody wants to face us in the playoffs. Now, do I think we're a Stanley Cup contender? No, because I don't think we have enough firepower and star power outside of Robert Thomas. And, at an elite level, Dylan Holloway, Philip Broberg have been arguably your second and third best players. You can throw Kyrou in there as well. He's had a good season, and Parayko. But I think this is a team that has enough to make the playoffs and has enough to maybe even win a series in the playoffs. But outside of that, I don't know how far we can go. I really like the future of this squad, though, and I think this is a team to definitely keep watching the rest of this year. This is definitely not one of those Blues teams to give up on whatsoever. This is a scrappy group, and Montgomery's brought a whole lot of life. And now that Robert Thomas has got his legs under him, he's one of the most fun players to watch in the last 5 to 10 years for the St. Louis Blues. I can't remember, outside of maybe a really strong Vladdy Tarasenko year, can't remember another guy like Robert Thomas that can provide this type of electric play and dynamic ability. So definitely keep watching this team. I think this team could be on the verge of something really special these next couple of years, and who knows for the rest of this year. I think we do make the playoffs, and I think we could make something happen this year, and obviously for the future. Let's transition into some drama here in St. Louis with the St. Louis Cardinals and the constant rumors and discussions around Ryan Helsley and Nolan Arenado. Starting with Ryan Helsley, there's been deals going around all over the place, and the Cardinals are playing it really safe and being really, really quiet right now, and I don't love that. I've talked about with Ryan Helsley, elite season last year, elite closer in baseball, one of the top 3 relief pitchers of baseball in my opinion, along with Clase, and you could probably put someone like Devin Williams in that mix. I think it would be a really bad move for the Cardinals not to move Ryan Helsley this offseason, especially when you get peak value for him right now. You don't want to start 2025 where, hopefully not obviously, but he blows out an arm or any type of injury happens, or maybe he just doesn't perform very well, and all of a sudden his value goes really down. There's a lot of teams, there's a handful of teams that are competing for a World Series next year. You throw the Dodgers, the Braves, the Yankees, who knows with the Red Sox, because they're looking really good. And obviously the Mets with the Juan Soto deal. You throw a couple of these teams in the mix for a World Series, and all those teams outside of the Yankees now will need some back into the bullpen help. You're going to go Iglesias and AJ Minter for the Braves. Are you going to go, who knows, I mean, Walker Buehler closed out the World Series for the Dodgers. You could go Michael Kopech, but do you really want to rely on him closing out games for you, or Brusdar Graterol? The Yankees obviously are a little different. They make the trade for Devin Williams, and I think they might have just fleeced the Milwaukee Brewers, Nestor Cortez, and a second base prospect for Devin Williams. So I don't think they are going to be looking for a back end closer or reliever. So I think teams are going to be calling for Ryan Helsley, and I just don't think it's a good idea at all to not answer these phone calls, but also not really jump on one of these deals. The Phillies are another team that have been in talks, and I think you could get a couple prospects to build for the future for Ryan Helsley. And so I think he needs to be moved, and it really seems unlikely now that there's been some rumors that Mozeliak and company do not want to move on from Ryan Helsley, and I just think that's a very poor decision. As much as I love Ryan Helsley, and I think he's an elite closer in baseball and an elite player, I think it'd be really bad for the future of our franchise. Now to Nolan Arenado. I think it's 50-50. He's kind of marked down his no trade clause to about 6 or 7 teams, and so it's hard to see what team jumps on him now, and also hard to see what we can get in return for an aging superstar in Nolan Arenado. And I say aging only because, I mean, he's still young enough to perform at a high level, but I'm saying aging because of these last couple of years and how he has performed, which has not been a super high level. I mean, he was a below average hitter for the most of last year, and his defensive ability has come down a little bit from what we know. And so I've made it known on here and on other podcasts that I've joined that I'm not going to hate it if he's our starting third baseman in 2025, but I will be okay with it if he's not as well. And so I'm kind of 50-50. It opens up a spot for a guy like Nolan Gorman or Brendan Donovan or both, or JC, two of those 3 guys to play every single day if he's not here. But also, it's Nolan Arenado. He's a fan favorite. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer in my book, and so having him in your lineup, batting in the 4 or 5 hole, most likely the 5 hole with some of these guys we have now, trying to get opportunities for him. And he provides a veteran leader in that lineup, which outside of Wilson Contreras, you would kind of be lacking if you think about it. You kind of be relying on any type of veteran leadership being thrown on Brendan Donovan, which is kind of crazy to think about. So yeah, I don't know. There's been rumors about the Phillies, which with Bohm, I don't think they would make that work. Obviously, the Yankees, I think they're definitely in the bidding for it. I think the Dodgers could be. And there's been talks about the Astros without potential Alex Bregman move. With the potential Alex Bregman move somewhere else, they would be needing a third baseman, everyday third baseman. I think Nolan Arenado could fit there, and I think he would thrive. I think he would thrive there, honestly. He could go from a 17-homer season, which he had last year, to a 30-homer season with those Crawford boxes and how he likes to pull the ball. So that's the one team I guess I would bet on. Would be really diving deep into a potential trade here is the Houston Astros, and they would have prospects that we could go for. The Red Sox are another team, but I think the Astros, I'd say probably the Astros and Yankees are the 2 teams I would keep an eye on the most. I think the Red Sox are trying their best to go all in. They were obviously in the Juan Soto sweepstakes, but I think it's better for them that he chose the Mets. You have Rafael Devers, you have Tristan Casas, you have Rafaela, you have Garrett Crochet now, which they traded for. So I would definitely keep an eye on them in this, but I think the Astros, for Nolan Arenado, he's the one team that I would want to go to. You're probably going to be in the thick of things in the AL West, and it's a very hitter friendly ballpark for him. So that would make a lot of sense. Outside of these 2 players, I don't see the Cardinals doing a whole lot trading away, but also trading for anybody or signing anybody. I don't see a lot of that happening this offseason. I think these are the 2 main guys to keep an eye on. And I think Helsley, I'm still kind of, my mind's kind of blown that we're not completely. I'm surprised he's not gone already. I mean, he's coming off a star season. He's a star in baseball, and you can get a lot for him coming off a tremendous season like that, peak value right now, and we're just kind of waiting it out. And I don't know what's happening behind closed doors, but I would I've said it several times here, and I've said it several times before. It would be a very bad move not to move on from Ryan Helsley at this time. So definitely going to be covering more of this, and if anything happens throughout the week, definitely going to be posting it on Instagram and on TikTok, but also covering on our Friday episode. So make sure to go check us out on Friday as well. Not going to dive into SLU. I was thinking about it, but not going to dive into SLU. We're just going to move on to SLU's next game this upcoming week. But the Blues play 3 games this week. The Devils, the Lightning, and the Panthers. SLU plays this week. I have not checked their schedule yet, though. And then the Cardinals news kind of going all over the place right now. So a lot to cover this upcoming week, whether it be Blues reaction shows, SLU reaction shows, or our Friday episode. So make sure to go check us out throughout the week on Instagram and on TikTok, but also our Friday episode and those Blues and SLU reaction shows throughout the week. I will see you guys on Wednesday covering the Blues versus Devils. And, of course, go like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow and rate the podcast on Spotify or Amazon Music if you're listening over there. And, of course, like I've mentioned several times, go follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And I will see you guys on Wednesday for the Blues reaction show.